Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Ellie with Millennial Yarn. Today we're gonna do some solar dyeing, and we're gonna be using regular Kool Aid packets with just regular distilled vinegar, white vinegar that you can find at any store. And you're probably wondering why there's a pickle jar next to me. I just wanted to show you, this is the kind of jar that I used. It is Vlasic pickles. All you have to do is eat all the pickles and rinse it out. So, you know, it's just like a one-day thing, just chug them, whatever. So yeah, that's the kind of jar that I used. You can use any jar that's big enough. I wouldn't use a plastic jar. So what you're gonna need is a big jar like this. Usually a quart jar is a good one, like a regular mason quart jar even. You want some Kool Aid packets. Today I'm gonna be using pink lemonade and what's the other one? Woo! I don't even know what this one is. It's lemonade. Literally the only color that would make sense. So we have regular lemonade and pink lemonade Kool Aid. Now I started out with Iran Superwash Merino wool, and I just soaked it in some water. You can soak it in water and vinegar if you want, but since you're gonna be using vinegar anyway, it's like not really that necessary. I also add vinegar to the actual Kool Aid mix before I add it in, which you'll see. So really, it's just personal preference. Experiment, do whatever feels right. It's a fun experiment, even in groups or with kids. Like, I feel like this is a really, really great way to introduce children to yarn dyeing. If you have little kiddos around the house and you're looking to get them interested in, you know, knitting or fiber or anything, dyeing with Kool Aid and vinegar is a great way to start, because you don't have to separate all of the utensils. You don't have to buy the citric acid. You don't have to buy the acid dyes. You can just use whatever is around the house, or go to your local Walmart, Stop and Shop, Target, and just grab some Kool Aid packets and vinegar. That's probably like $5 right there, which isn't too bad. So yeah, I will get this show on the road. Okay, so first we want to mix up our dye stock. Here is the lemonade Kool Aid. And originally I had planned to do tropical punch, because since the package was blue, I thought it was blue. It is not. Here is the pink lemonade packet that I'm going to be using for the pink color, and the distilled white vinegar that I'm going to be using instead of citric acid. So what I did was I started off with 3 teaspoons each in the mason jar of the white vinegar. You don't necessarily need to use 3 teaspoons to get the penetration that you need. I picked that number out of the air and it worked well for me. So if you do want to use 3 teaspoons, just be aware that it should work. So now I'm just going to pour the Kool Aid into the jar that already has the vinegar. So as you can see, I'm taking the blue now and pouring it into the vinegar, and subsequently finding out that it is certainly not blue but red. Luckily, the lemonade and the pink lemonade were both the colors that I was hoping for. So now I'm just going to take my pitcher of regular tap water, and I filled the mason jars up between about 1/2 and 3/4 of the way. And I just use regular tap water at room temperature. With citric acid dyes, usually people start off with very, very hot water, but since it's Kool Aid, I didn't see that it was necessary to do that, and it still turned out just how I wanted it. So now comes the most fun part, in my opinion, which is actually adding the water, the dye and the yarn all together in the jar that's going to sit outside in the sun. So I just put a teeny little bit of vinegar in the jar just because, I don't know, good luck, who knows. And I added just a little bit of water because I didn't want the first colored dye to saturate the entire skein of yarn, because then I wouldn't get the effect that I want with two different colors. So in a second you'll see the yarn that I use, and for this particular project I'm using 100% Superwash Merino, a ran, and it is the ethically sourced mulesing free from Dyer Supplier, in case you're wondering. And when I put it in the jar, I just kind of wanted to push it down a little bit more and make sure that the yarn was being fully saturated by the water that was in the jar. And I started off with pink because I figured if I put pink on the top, then it would probably bleed down into the yellow. And I just wanted to make sure that the yellow had its time to shine and that the pink didn't really overtake the entire dye job. So I tucked in the rest of the yarn there, and then I put in all of the yellow dye because I figured if any color needs to be added more as far as Kool Aid dye goes, then it's probably the yellow, just because I wanted a real strong color in there. Lastly, all I did was fill up the jar with the rest of the water, and I decided to fill it all the way to the top just because I figured that way it has less room to move around while I transport it outside. So today is a 93-degree day, and it is very, very sunny out here in Connecticut. And I just want to show you out in the sun how well you can see kind of that translucent color. You can see the yellow that is still sitting at the top. The Kool Aid hasn't been absorbed, obviously. And toward the bottom, you can see that the pink is still pretty evidently not absorbed. So here you can see that even after just 2 hours of being in the sun, the dye already looks like it's absorbing. It's still a little bit of a translucent color, but you don't see as much as the Kool Aid dye pigment color. And you can also see lots of bubbles at the top, so you can tell it's getting real hot. Okay, so here we have the almost finished project. All that's left to do is rinse it out. But as you can see, the water is pretty much clear. It doesn't even really have that much of the translucent effect anymore. The Kool Aid dye has saturated the yarn very well. It's all absorbed. It came out a beautiful color, and I'm interested to see after I wash it and dry it what it's going to look like, because I'm wondering if when it dries, the Kool Aid will look more pastel. But here is the bottle. As you can see, the jar has no Kool Aid powder left in it whatsoever. And for anybody who's wondering about the rinsing process, about what soap you might be able to use, some people use dish soap, some people like to use wool wash. You can basically use anything that's safe to use on human skin or hair. So my little secret is that I like to use shampoo, especially when I'm using vinegar, because vinegar is such a potent smell, and I try very hard to get that smell out of the skein, especially if it's going to be in order for someone else. And here you have it. I am going to go ahead and spin this yarn in my dryer, and then I'm going to go hang it up outside and hope and cross my fingers that it doesn't come out too pastel.
So here is the final product. I'm very happy with it. It didn't come out too pastel. It is very light colors. I'm somebody who likes to really saturate with color. So it's a little different from what I normally do. But if you liked this video or you have any questions, comments, feel free to like this channel, subscribe. I put out new videos every week and I would love to know what you would like to see. If you're interested in seeing my shop, any of the work that I do, go to www.millennialyarn.com. I also do custom dyes, and you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, all that. So again, this is Ellie with Millennial Yarn. Thank you so much for watching my video. Have a great day, guys. Go forth and create.